Welcome to the Uproot Project podcast, where we dig deep to uncover and dismantle toxic beliefs about God, ourselves, and each other. Our goal is to replant new insights in the fertile soil of wisdom and love, fostering personal growth and transformation. Join us as we explore new ways of thinking and living in a world of complexity and diversity. Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Uproot Project. I am Christian, she, her.
I am Chris, he, him.
And I'm Whitney, also she, her. So we're excited to have you all join us. And as a norm setting for this podcast, we want to start always with a mindfulness moment just to welcome everybody in the space. And to be fully honest, we also needed to ground ourselves in this space.
Indeed.
So if everyone could just take a second, if you are driving, do this with your eyes open. Please be safe. If you are not, and you are in some place that is safe, close your eyes with me for just a few seconds. And I want you to inhale. We're going to do a quick box breath, and then we'll get started. So inhale to the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 1, 2, 3, 4. Release. 1, 2, 3, 4. So quick tool. I hope you all are in this space. More importantly, I hope you all are in your bodies and feeling into your body. Our body is incredibly intelligent and lets us know a lot of things. So if you're there and you feel yourself in that breath, you are holding or tensing, just try to release whatever might be tensing your body and come chill on the couch with us. All right, we're going to get started.
All right, so today's theme, the theme for this season, rather, is going to be talking about the sin of certainty. If you are listening to this podcast, you may have heard of an author by the name of Peter Enns, and he has a very enlightening book about the subject, especially about when we talk about when things are being uprooted from our lives, how we can hang on to things that appear to be normal, but they're slipping through our fingers, and we need to find a new way to reorient ourselves to go on to this journey. And sometimes our obsession with certainty can cause us to do very harmful things to both to ourselves and to the people we love and the people we don't love. So here's an excerpt that I have from his book. And so we'll start there and we'll just launch out from there. Our beliefs about God, which is to say our thoughts about God, are precious to us because they give us a sense of who we are and our place in this chaotic world. And we often can't imagine any other way of being us. And so when our beliefs are threatened, the instinct, understandably, is to guard them fiercely, to resist any move as long as possible, to make the stress go away, and to stay in the comfort of our familiar spiritual homes. But in resisting, we may actually be missing an invitation to take a sacred journey, where we let go of needing to be right and trust God regardless of what we feel we know or don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Let's just sit in that for a moment
Yeah.
and speak to any thoughts that may arise from that.
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes up for me, and y'all know this, so for context, we are all close folks in this room. Am I going to get into our relationship to one another?
Yeah.
So me and the other Chris are married.
Yes. So Christian and Christopher, the Chris's, are married. And I, Whitney, am Christian's best friend of like
forever.
Like before we have memories. And so that makes her my sister, period, the end, fight your mama. And that makes Christopher my brother. So also fight your daddy. I don't care.
Family.
Yeah, you can fight everybody. We are family, and we know each other really well, and so we will try our best not to have inside thingies, but
we'll explain them if possible.
That part,
right? We will.
So, in thinking about uncertainty, I'm in a very specific, it feels like, season of my life where earlier this year, at the top of the year in the spring, I guess not the top would be
Close
winter.
enough.
Yes, thank you. I had this moment, and this actually, I think, was my second moment with this. So I was working in a leadership position at a place, and it was one of those moments where it was time to go. And I knew it was time to go. And so in our transition as an organization, I was like, oh, this is actually a perfect time to leave. And the plan was for me to offboard sometime closer to now, or a month from now. And oddly enough, last year around this time, I actually was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go. I hate this place. And instead of leaving, because I was so uncertain, right? I was like, babes, yes, keep the pop in. It's important.
The date for the W,
Yeah. And so it was just not only that, but can you swing it and what's going to happen to you and all these things. And so I was like, oh, things have changed. Things are changing because there was a little bit of change in our top leadership.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, let me give it a try. And babe, we didn't even make it 6 months before I was like,
actually,
talking about
this
on
is
second thought.
Right. And so I thought it was going to be good. It did not go so well. And so what ended up happening is I was in a moment where a very specific series of events happened to the point that it was a blatant disregard of my boundaries. It was also a blatant, I could not avoid it. So I'm one of those people. One of the things I don't like, and I don't like to lie. That's just not my favorite thing at all. And I can't stand to be lied on. So I try not to lie on people. I don't lie on people. But yeah. And so that dishonesty is a thing for me. And there was a situation where dishonesty was abound. And so all of my values were challenged because I was like, I can't trust you enough to believe what you say, baby. How we going to do work, especially at a leadership level?
Yeah, that's deep.
And everything in my life, right? God was supportive, family was supportive, friends were like, girl, it's time, right? But this feeling of I don't know what's going to happen had me shaking in my boots. I was shaking in my boots, but I had to jump. It was one of those I felt the call on my spirit to say, girl, I know you are unsure. We are sure. Do it. And so I did it. And I've been fun employed, because that's what I've been calling it, ever since. But I've been good in ways that I didn't think I was good. And what actually opened for me is I've been on a crazy personal and spiritual journey this summer. And I was like, would this journey have happened if I was still working there? And if it was trying to happen, would I be able to process it and experience
have
it?
Space for it.
Right. The way that it's, because the answer is no. I didn't have the space for this because it's been a lot of shadow work, inner child work, primary wound work. And it's been hard. It's been hard, but it's been beautiful. And so, I've been saying to people, I'm like, if you knew me in 2023, you don't know me now. And if you knew me in March and you haven't updated your software, then you don't know this version of me that's sitting in front of you because it's been
get the firmware update.
You did not. Okay, firmware. I'm sorry, y'all.
Oh, no,
Chris is our tech person, so this is
the everything person.
He is the everything person.
I'm also a minister, but it's
he's the idea.
He's literally the everything person.
We'll have to do a bonus episode so I can tell you all the things that my husband does because he won't tell y'all.
He won't.
He got a laundry list.
Let me tell y'all, it's so expansive. I literally misheard Christian on the phone last night and thought she said this man played the flute. Because he doesn't play the flute, but that's not outside of the realm of possibility.
It's kind of not.
He does everything. But yeah, and so basically, I needed to walk in the season of uncertainty.
Yeah.
Because what is here for me, what has been here for me has been life transforming. And just in how I see myself, how I love myself, how I show up in love, in relationship with other people, how I even see other people. It has been, and like, if you know me, I was already kind of, it was looking good on paper.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's, man, we done dug in the deep down. And I mean, there's always more digging to do. So who knows what's coming next. But, but like, it's been wild. And I wouldn't have experienced it this way if I hadn't trusted. But that trust, y'all, trust is.
It builds, and it's a slow process. And it's like God pretty much knows how each one of us needs to go along that journey to eventual trust. And so he's just, I'm trying to use gender neutral pronouns when it comes to God. It hasn't always come off, but they're patient, they're understanding, and they go with you at the pace of what they know you're possible. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, we could go further, faster, but you choosing this track. All right, well, I know how to navigate this with you. Yeah. And so, yeah, like it's, even for me, I had this thought, these ideas back in 2017 before the pandemic of how I wanted to do faith community, or how I wanted to do church. But I think similar to you, I think for a lot of us, I was like, oh, I need to get these things done. I need to go down this path. I need to get, legitimacy. I need to be connected to another church. I don't want to do nothing. I didn't want to go the non-denominational route and be unsupported and be looking like I'm just a Christian doing my own thing. Yeah. And it's like all of those barriers of, again, holding on to certainty, the established way of doing things. That began back then to strip away. And then when I actually went down the path of doing the work, and I was like, okay, God, all right, I don't know a lot, but okay, if you think I'm supposed to do it, then okay, go down. And to find out going down the path that I still had shit I needed to unload. Yeah. And in terms of certainty. And it was not until like last week that I had finally like closed a door that was open because of my need for certainty. Yeah. And my need for, okay, you've built this church and this institution for a reason. Like, yes, I should try to be a part of it. And that door closed. And so now we're on this path, and this podcast is a part of this path of going down to see what happens. Yeah. And pursuing truth and like what Peter N says, in being invited onto this sacred journey. And I feel at peace. I feel resolved. I mean, there's a lot of shit I don't know. I'm sorry, there's going to be sometimes I'm going to cuss. Yeah. Amen. That's just where I am right now.
Hell yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff I don't know. And it's not going to, go the way I think it's going to go, especially when you invite more people into the joint. But I always keep in mind that, God, you're talking to other people, you're speaking to them as well. And you love them too. And so it's going to be a ride. It's going to be a journey. And I'm looking forward to what comes of it, and not try to have my thumb on the pulse and try to control it because of it doesn't look like what I think it should or what I'm used to it looking like in the past.
Yeah. I think while you're speaking, the thing that resonates in both of our stories is that sense of peace. And for me, the word I would use here is alignment, right? So like, even though I have no clue what's coming, y'all, and there's been other moments of testing in this, I didn't tell y'all. They about to find out live on the air. I received a job offer from a place. I turned it down.
Did you?
I did.
I didn't know that.
I did. I wrestled with it because I went back and forth. It was people that had recruited me, and the conversation was good. It's things I can do. And I woke up the day I was supposed to give them an answer, and I felt so unenthused. And I was like, what is going on? And so I was just like, I heard it very clear in my spirit. You can slow down. They said, take the time you need. This offer doesn't expire until 2 weeks from now. Slow down. And so I did. And I was like, okay, this is actually going to be very similar to walking into what I walked out of.
Yeah.
And I decided not to. Right. And so you want to talk about the shaking response that happened after I was like, this is not, I actually did a big, bold pitch. And I was like, I think you could actually benefit me in other ways. And they were like, yeah, we ain't got the budget for that, but we love you. So we'll keep you in mind for other things. Me. Okay, great. But it was alignment. It was I don't have peace with this. Yes. Right. Or I don't have peace with how this is going. Like there is something unsettled that doesn't feel like it's clicking. And even though the no is scary, the no clicks, right? Or the release clicks. It went into alignment and it was like, oh, so we going deep up off in this trust thing. Okay. Yeah. Right. And so, that reminded me of your story, Chris, and just thinking about like this whole process and like the things you have been, the things that we build like into our identity around certainty or like our process around it, right? Like these are the things that need to be in place and this will make meaning for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And what does it look like to shed those things? And then you're left ass out, right? Like, it's very much giving naked mole rat.
It looks scary. Yeah.
You know, but you're still here. And now you have the space because you've released all the shit you were carrying.
Yeah.
You now have the space for the things that are for you to like attach. You can hold it.
Yeah.
If I'm bag lady in the hand, how am I hold it?
Right. You can't receive anything if your hand's already full and you clutching onto it for dear life. But I think that one of the things, and I have not read this book, so for reference, if you didn't listen to any of our prequels where you got to know us individually, I'm the regular. Both of these people are very intelligent. I mean, we're all intelligent.
Stop that.
But these people have a passion for their learning to the point where they actually wanted more education. I am not that person. I understand most of what they say unless they start using words with like 18 syllables. That's mostly my husband.
Is for the record.
Whitney occasionally, but that's mostly Chris. So if you hear something that sounds like Greek, it's probably literally Greek.
That's true.
Aside. That's an aside. I'm letting y'all in on the joke. So if me and Whitney bust out when he says some kind of weird word that has like 18 vowels in it,
we will ask him to define it for you and us.
We won't know.
Because what are you saying?
But yeah, no, like, you know, the way that I grew up in my faith practice, and honestly, we all grew up in similar faith practices. Whitney and I grew up in church together. So we had like, it still didn't match because we were individuals, but we grew up in the same church.
Under the same teachings.
Yeah. We had different takeaways from those teachings. We'll just leave it at that, and y'all will find out what those mean later. But we had different takeaways.
I'm going to find out with y'all.
Girl, you already know. We came to different conclusions a lot of the time.
Fair.
When we were presented with I have always been and am working on the fact that I am very much that's what you said? Okay. And Whitney's like, wait, what?
Make it make sense.
Yes. Whitney wants you to make it make sense.
I need more information.
And so it took me a while to get to the point where I was like asking more of those questions. And so for me, like the journey of faith that I've been on has been a very like roller coaster kind of situation. And so I clung to a lot of those ideas, much like he mentioned in that book that he read from earlier. I clung to a lot of those ideas because like anything that didn't fit the narrative that I had been taught felt like an attack. And it meant that, you know, whatever I believed, and I didn't think about it at the time, but it was like, oh, why are you so angry? Why are you so aggressive with people who disagree with you? And I think that energy, right, it kept me in a position where I was not growing. And I didn't realize that the thing that was keeping me from growing was me.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I think this happens to a lot of people who are like in evangelical spaces, is the idea that like, oh, I'm not growing at this church. I'm not growing with this pastor. I'm not growing in this class. Right. And it's like, yeah, but they are not the ones impeding growth. You are.
Yeah.
But it's hard to see that.
Come through.
Right.
And so like for both of y'all, like, it's like, I had to decide to release the job. I had to decide to release the pre-planned program I had for myself. I had to decide to release a lot of the theology that I clung to like it was a life raft. Yeah. Realize like, and at that point, then you can actually start to grow. You get to move forward. You get to experience what was there all along kind of waiting for you. But that fear, that desire to control everything, ooh, Lord, I'm going back to therapy for that one, y'all. But that desire to control everything, including you, but like you can barely control you. You sure can't control nobody else.
Oh man,
that's really the one.
That all of that stuff, it really like it. I think like when Chris first pitched this episode, and he was like the sin of certainty. It was like, ooh, me and this word sin, we got beef. However, like if you think about sin as like a thing that is separating, the desire to have certainty and to be in control of everything, it separates you from a ton. And one of those things is the experience of what happens when you just let stuff happen. Like when you
let it go.
When you tap into like alignment. That spirit, like when you're looking for peace, instead of it's like, do I feel peace about it? Instead of, does this look like the right thing that everybody else does? Yep. Is this following the path that everybody else followed? But do I feel peace about this for me right now? And if the answer is no, then you don't do it.
Then the answer is no. And it's a hard no.
Hard no, final no. Like, and don't fight it because, you know, just to try to make yourself fit in a box. You are not a box. You are a very oddly shaped thing, physically and spiritually.
Right.
Don't try to put yourself in a box.
Yeah.
So, funny that you mention it, because I had a dream. And I very rarely remember my dreams. But I had a dream on Saturday night going into Sunday. And I woke up that Sunday morning. I'm not going to go into the details of the dream because it was weird and wonky. But
as dreams normally are.
But how I came out, I was like, man, this must be the fucking music next I took. But
crazy dreams. Music and some defense. Right. Keep going.
I was like, Jesus. But I went through it, and one thing that it seemed to come through for me when I started processing the dream is that the voice came and said, all power is my power. And for me, when he said that all power is my power, and I was just like, it's like, so you really don't need to walk in fear when somebody is exhibiting power against you, because that's yours too.
Period.
And if I align that's what it's like, and if I align myself with you, whatever's coming my way, Psalm 91 talks about that 10,000 fall at your side and 1,000 on the other side, but it won't come near you. And it is this idea that certainty, when things have been stripped away from you, it puts you out of alignment because you're not moving where God is moving. And so when there's powers coming against you, you become a victim of that because you're not moving with the principle of life.
Yeah.
Stepping into the
is that change as a constant.
That's right. Oh, that's good, Chris.
So
told y'all. I told you he was smart.
Yeah.
My face was over here fighting the whole time. So I was trying not to screech.
Maybe one day
into
we'll
the
get
mic.
a video camera so y'all can see some of the faces she be making, but they are epic.
That's my face, y'all. I'm sorry. No, and that's really it. Like, no, say more. If you go.
No, I'm gonna let it breathe.
Oh, yeah, that was.
So you can go.
I need to breathe. I like. Can we just call into the room that control is an illusion?
Mm-hmm.
It is, but it is such an enticing one.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my God. It's so like the fact that it's not real doesn't make you not want it.
That's real.
Right.
You know?
It definitely
it's
very
real.
intoxicating. It's very enticing. It's how people build narratives that build nations.
That's it.
It's how people that build narratives that build entire lives and worlds on one idea.
Mm-hmm.
Some people go right off in the sunset and die and they sleep with it. And then other people, that shit comes crumbling down midlife. And that's when you have midlife crisis.
That's where I'm at.
Because the
maybe
story.
We should call this the midlife crisis podcast.
Right.
Oh my God, it's crazy that we're in midlife.
And we're like in our 30s.
I mean,
it's crazy.
I mean
late 30s.
Late 30s.
We're all in our late 30s.
I'm the oldest.
By what?
1 year.
A year. Not
1985.
quite. 11 months. Some change.
No, I am older than you, Christian, by like a year and 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Pull it together, woman. I am. Wow, it's crazy how you just told these people my business.
Oh, my bad.
The nerve of you. Y'all can leave it in, I guess, but that was Tia.
I said my year. So.
Oh, nobody heard you.
Right.
I said I was 87.
Oh, wow. I'm
in the middle.
It. Period.
Oh,
And you are. No, I think like it is an enticing thing. But one of the things, and we've talked about this before, one of the things that I think people find so enticing is that the illusion that you can control like external things to yourself. Like the only thing you actually have control over is you, right? The narratives you create. The responses that you have to situations, to stimuli. Jesus. But like you cannot control what another person says, does, thinks, any of that, how they show up, where they show up, if they show up, if the stars will align and give you your highest wish, you cannot control that. What you can control is you. And so oftentimes, I'm assuming we're going to say this in the intro, but I'm a therapist. So oftentimes I have clients that I will, and I have and just want to be clear, that like, we're coming in, we're having these conversations and it's like, oh, but I'm responding like this because this person. No. You're responding like this because you're trying to control them, because if they don't have that behavior, then now you don't have that response. But if your regulation of any kind is contingent upon how someone else behaves, you are codependent, love.
When I tell you.
That's how road rage starts.
Road rage. Yeah. This is raising a child.
That is raising a child. Yeah. That's co-regulation.
So we have a toddler, Chris and I. And oh my God, there are so many times where they're doing something and, I have a response and they'll ask me, why did you do that? And in my response, I will say, because you did such and such. And my brain goes, no, you chose to act like that.
Yeah.
That was a response you chose. Your response is not their fault. And I try to catch myself before I say that, because I don't want that in their head.
That's right.
This is my fault. I made mommy mad. No, mommy got mad. Mommy was already frustrated. Mommy was on 10, and that's why mommy's going back to therapy. Mommy was on 10, period. You were being a toddler.
Right.
That's it.
No, that's real. And I think owning that, right? Like, it's hard.
It is.
But it's important. Like, think about it, y'all. We grew up in the 80s, right? Well, we were born in the 80s, kids of the 90s. Yeah. But it's like, y'all know the parent generation we had. Our parents are boomers. Are your parents still boomers?
My parents
Children
are boomers.
seen and not heard. My parent was a boomer.
Yeah. Well, no, I could be seen and heard. However, but like, it was very cause and effect in the house, right?
Always.
Right? It's just like, and I will say, I grew there in some ways in which I had a liberal childhood because I got to ask questions and make my preference known and got to negotiate.
I got to ask questions. It never occurred to me to negotiate, but that's just a personality thing. Keep going.
That's fair. It's also a personality thing that I'm going to negotiate. But like, even still, it is like if you wouldn't act this way, you wouldn't get your ass beat if you would just act right, right? Like you wouldn't get this woman if you just go to school. I was a great kid. I was a great student, but so it wasn't school issues. But like, you stop talking back, we wouldn't have to do this. And it's just like, it was very much just projected. And like, if we could all millennials take a moment, and probably some of y'all exes, Gen X's too.
I think they might have had a little
like take this moment and say like, yo. A little moment for healing. Their response was never your fault.
Responsibility.
Their response was the same way I am saying to you now that anyone else, your response is not their fault. Those people's responses were not your fault. And so like, we have this onus to like own our own experience.
Own your shit.
Own your shit.
Yeah.
Right. And I was going to even think about Sonia Massey in that situation where he
Can we just take a breath? Let's say her name.
Moment of silence for
Sonia Massey.
I'm so weary, Jesus.
So weary.
But the idea that you could be threatened by a pot of boiling water to the extreme.
When you have a gun.
To the extent that you feel like you need to shoot to kill somebody. At the very least, Al Green survived boiling stuff.
You read my mind.
He survived boiling grits.
Which
so,
stick.
like you are okay if boiling water gets on you. It did not warrant you feeling like you need to shoot somebody to die.
To death.
And this is what I'm talking about in terms of regulating your emotions and And don't get me wrong, I appreciate what the police people have to do, or any first responder. But if fear rules your disposition in this job, you don't need to be in that position.
Word.
That's it.
Because part of the reason why you have the gun and why you have the badge or why you have the fire hose or whatever is because you have been trained. We expect you to have been trained to regulate and de-escalate situations.
Supposed to be a peace officer.
When people are themselves are out of control, you need to be the adult in the room.
Yeah.
And so,
but I mean,
I'm thinking about that even with my toddler, like that.
To that point, we don't get taught that. Like that's a I'm using my air quotes. That's a new thing. It's like, oh, gentle parenting and, you know, responsive parenting and all this. There's other buzzwords for it. Right. I think the simplest way to say it is I try to treat my toddler like I treat other human beings. Hard stop.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I don't know why it happened, but we're trying to adjust our awareness of how we interact with our toddler. They are a person.
Mm-hmm.
Period. I would not treat any other person like that. I try to like ascertain. I'm not saying that there aren't times that I make them do things they don't want to do. Of course they do. You don't want to brush your teeth. That's too bad. That's a thing we need to do. Mm-hmm. But instead of me like shoving a toothbrush in their mouth while they gag, because that's not a good.
That's violent.
That sounds like a thing that's going to put you in therapy later.
Yeah, it's violent.
Throwing up in my sink.
Or have you with dental issues because you don't want to brush your own teeth because now you got tooth trauma.
Trauma, right? Creating all sorts of like mental garbage in the back of your head, just trying to keep your teeth clean. But why? Right? It is on me. Mm-hmm. If I dealt with any other person who I was trying to get to do something, either I decide I don't care, which sometimes we do. Not gonna lie. Sometimes when Tyler is like, I'm not feeling it today. I'm like, you know what? That's fine. You don't have to feel it today. You don't want to take a shower? I'm not in the mood to fight you to take a shower. Go get into bed.
Yeah.
And we do that with adults. It's like, oh, you want to be an idiot? I'm going to let you do that over there.
That's
right.
Go ahead. You got it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I need you to do a thing. And so now I need to regulate and go, use my big brain. Use the front part of my brain, the big part, not the survival part. Okay. Right. What can I do that will make you think less about the thing? How can I distract you? How can I encourage you? How can I make this fun? How can I make this a game? Right? There's all these ways that we have access to that can turn something that could end up being traumatic into something that's best case benign, worst case benign, and best case like fun.
Yeah.
But that's a skill set, right? That's a skill set that we have to build. And I don't think a lot of us built it. A lot of us have this idea that certain people are less important and less valuable than other people, whether that's because of the color of their skin, who they choose to love, or the fact that they're 3. Right. And so it's like all this stuff is connected. And I don't think we always think of it that way. It's like, oh, they have a problem. It's like, no, our society has a problem. Period. Of devaluing certain groups of people. It's just a matter of which group of people is it for you.
Yeah.
And what kind of effort are you going to put into making into shifting that?
Right. And those, like you said, and I think it's based on a narrative that we have in our society, in civilization, that, you know, there can only be one at the top. And there can only be one at the top.
Individualism is going to kick our ass, y'all.
I'm special.
Process.
Everyone, you know, and so I'm significant. Therefore, you must not be, because only one of us can be significant. This idea that's built on, and I'm just trying to decide where I am on the political spectrum. But capitalism in and of itself is just I can see all of its flaws, especially when it comes to how we value and structure our society and value ourselves as individuals in light of what we're trying to build in terms of the society. Because again, narratives build nations.
They do.
Yeah.
And depending on the kind of nation you want to build depends on the narrative you want to start and put in motion. And once you set that thing in motion, it's hard to undo it. It's hard.
Yeah.
You're talking about 50 years, 100 years, 200 years down the line. This nation's 230 something years old?
Don't make
200.
Okay.
1776 to 250 some odd years old.
We trust you, Chris.
77.6,
Yeah.
but I don't do the math on. You know what?
Right.
We all
You
got
can do it.
phones. We can do the math. Do any of y'all care?
Right.
248 years.
248 years
Good job,
old.
Chris. I like your round math. It was very effective. Continue.
Yes.
yeah, but it's this idea that this narrative is baked into our society
Mm-hmm.
that there must be an underclass
Right.
for this society to thrive.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
what it is.
we begin to structure power and values in service to that narrative because we cannot envision it any other way.
Yeah.
Whereas there's other societies that are egalitarian, that are, that had their moment of collective repentance
Yeah.
and also keep that remembrance. Think of Germany.
Deutschland.
Yeah, you think of Germany, how they went off the deep end in 1940s and 50s.
Yeah.
Of course, with the obvious moment in history, and they just did it about face and was okay. What does it take for us as a people never to be in this spot again? And they literally did that. Now, I'm not saying that Germany is perfect or this is heaven on earth.
No.
I'm pretty sure they got their own structural problems and issues
Everybody
based
does.
on other narratives they got going on.
Absolutely.
But on this issue, they have repented and restructured and thought differently about what it takes to
Yeah.
not do that. We have yet to do that over here as a nation with the offended parties, as it were, because to be honest, we're still doing it.
Absolutely.
And there's also a mentality which is infuriating.
Yeah.
That those are who are in control are the offended parties. That the people who have
Right.
their thumb on everybody else's neck or foot on everybody else's neck. That's how that goes.
Right.
They're the ones that's like, how dare you? Nobody wants to work for nothing. No,
Not like this.
No.
nobody wants to work for nothing.
This is also
correct.
not working.
Nobody
That's
wants to be a
called slavery.
slave.
It only works for you.
That's called
Right.
slavery. This is what happens when you stop teaching actual history in history class. But that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah.
The idea, like you said, that we're speaking from an American context because that's where we live.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
We are aware that there are other contexts that are similar to this and very dissimilar.
Mhm.
Just to put that out there. However,
Right.
in the American context, and we live in the South, do with that what you will.
Mostly pray, send vibes, and I don't know, generators.
Please help us.
Oh,
Send a
God.
life raft.
Please.
I hope we don't need no rafts.
And a live straw. I've taken up camping and I need supplies.
I've heard of those.
Yeah, I used to have
Yeah.
one. My ex-husband
I can
has
get
it.
you. I got some stuff. Anyway.
You have things? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, like there's this idea that the parties that are the aggressors are the aggrieved. And
It's that when
I
we
love that
challenge
alliteration, though.
them, that they are the aggrieved.
well, yes.
Unchallenged, they're fine. But once
Correct.
the status quo is challenged and we're trying to shake shit up so that it works for everybody, little
Or more
curb
than just
cut.
them.
Yeah,
Right.
then
You should
that's
never
when
work-
they become
And so
aggrieved.
now, yeah,
You
and
should
we
have never written this shit down if you didn't mean it.
all men are created equal.
No,
You
they
didn't mean
they
that.
didn't mean that.
They didn't mean it.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Pause. They did mean it by their definition because who is men?
Right.
Right.
They literally
And they
meant
were specific
men.
about men, not all people.
Men.
Right.
It was men, and
Oh.
men
And
at
they
the
meant
time was
men.
defined by white men.
Yeah, and they meant
Yeah.
men, not like
And I think oftentimes it can still be defined as white men, right?
Frequently it does.
We had a discussion. Chris is the kind of person who watches TikToks and then wants to show them to me, even though they're about topics that I don't enjoy. But he usually tries to find the ones that he thinks I think will funny. Mainly politics. So if I talk about politics, it's because Chris showed me something about politics.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So he was watching something on the news channel that I'm not going to give any press to, but you probably know which one it is. And we're watching a clip, and this guy is talking to one of the news anchors, and he calls one of the presidential candidates a name, and was lamenting about her giggling and how it was unpresidential. And
They called her a ding dong.
He
Let's
did.
not forget that.
Y'all be hating on Joy, and that's wild to me.
So this is what, and then in the clip goes on to say that what's her name? She was like the Prime Minister of Britain. Thatcher. He was like, Margaret Thatcher didn't giggle, and I was like,
she did say that. He did say that.
But she's also British. They don't.
So there are
ass.
so many issues, but this is what I said to Chris.
So as America, we model ourselves after the British that we freed ourselves from?
Well, you know what? Apparently we stole their national anthem and just decided to redo the words.
I just told
and make it
so
racist.
Apparently we do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do. But however, the thing that I really noticed was they were like, oh, would you be saying this if she wasn't a woman? And his response was, I don't care that she's a woman. I don't care that she's black. I just think she's incompetent. And I said to Chris, you know what? He might actually be telling the truth, because he could, like, he referenced Margaret Thatcher. And so basically what he was saying is, as long as you think what I think and behave how I behave, i.e. like a man, and preferably like a white man, then I don't care what you actually look like. And according to him, men don't giggle. And I was just like, you sound so sad.
Okay.
Like the way that you need, first of all, that's the only thing. You know why
Margaret Thatcher didn't giggle? Because she knew y'all niggas was out there.
That part.
And
also, y'all made her life hell.
I was about to say she's probably miserable.
She's stressed.
That was honestly my first thought, is Margaret was probably miserable.
Yeah, but I mean,
if I had to deal with a room full of niggas every day, only men every day, I too would not giggle, because I'd be like, this is some bullshit.
There's nothing
funny. This shit ain't funny about this.
Ain't nothing funny about this.
I thought this was a good idea.
And no shade to men. We're not man hating here. We do, in fact,
I happen to love this one, in particular, and a few others.
You know, I'm just saying, it's not man hating, but like y'all have watched The Crown. No, y'all seen them room full of them.
I'll hate on the patriarchy all day, and that's what that is.
Well, because patriarchy doesn't benefit anybody, including men. Like, it ultimately keeps you in a box.
Ultimately,
a box of certainty. Sorry,
a box of certainty that don't fit.
It doesn't fit.
It don't fit. And you know what? Everybody needs to get a little bit more sensitive about the fact that stuff don't fit. Like my toddler. When their shoes don't fit, they're not wearing them.
Right.
But what will we do? We will shove ourselves in a box, be uncomfortable as hell.
End up with hammer toes trying to keep your feet in them damn.
You are literally cramped up. You have permanently damaged stuff, and now you need surgery. And this analogy is going off the rails, but come with me.
No, I like to
go. You will contort yourself until you barely recognize yourself. At the first opportunity to stretch at all, you're like, oh, it's scary. And then you're like, oh, but it feels good.
That's it.
And that right there, that is why certainty, it is just like the patriarchy. It doesn't
Come on, the patriarchy?
Him too.
Talking about the pancreas.
The pancreatic
pancrearchy. Because you know that pancreatic cancer, once you get that, you probably gone. Just like Sheila, may she rest in peace. So patriarchy's just like it.
This podcast is dark.
You can get there real quick.
It's deep.
Join us on this
We're digging into the roots, y'all. It's dark down there.
It's uprooted.
It's dark down there.
It's dirty. You get your hands dirty. It's grimy.
Yeah, but once you get to stretch out them roots a little bit, you get a little more space. You got to get repotted and you can stretch out.
That's really it.
Then you can move up.
Right, because you won't grow unless you're grounded, all right?
Come on.
Yes.
All right.
Y'all are going to get all of the brainstorming we did. Y'all are going to hear all of
the things.
Because we had some good thoughts and they going to keep popping up.
It's actually an Ari Lennox song I was referencing.
Oh, see, I'm sorry. I stopped listening to new music after like 2009, so.
Yeah. No, but it's a good song. You should listen to it.
Shout out to Ari. Send it to me.
I will. It's a good song.
You don't have to send it to me.
I'd sing it, but I can't sing like Ari, so.
And we don't, is it a thing to like get not demonetized, what's the word? Copyrighted. Do you get copyrighted for songs on podcasts?
And should I change the melody? No.
You just gotta sing it poorly? Like, what do you have to
snapping out on you'll grow once you are grounded. Shibbity beep bop.
Turn it into a show tune.
I hope that didn't deem. I hope it didn't bat no good. Okay, yeah.
What?
You caught the vision. No, I'm trying to remember. Wow, not you caught the vision in part. But but that'll preach, because I think that is what happens, right? Like certainty is having sometimes none of the vision, but sometimes it's having the vision in part, right? Like we may know, we may feel good about this is where I want to end.
Yeah.
Right? Baby, you don't know the journey. You don't know. And what I've learned is people don't like the journey. People, sometimes it's me. I'm people. But like, we like to arrive.
Yes.
We like to show up.
Right.
I be looking for the end of the book.
There. But here's the
resolution.
problem. If you get to the end of the book and that shit don't make sense, it's because you didn't read all 27 chapters in the middle. Right? In order to truly get there and have what you need for there to make sense,
you got to go on the journey.
You got to go on the journey. And I think that's what has kept me. And y'all, it's like 17 transitions happening in my life. Let's not minimize. But like the thing that keeps me is that like I am always where I need to be. So whatever moment I'm in, no matter how uncomfortable it is, I am always where I need to be. And there's something here for me. So in this room right now, there's something here for me. If something amazing happens, okay, great. That's something here for me. If something less than desirable happens, then there's something there for me that I'm going to need when I get to the place I'm going, right? Like,
yeah.
And I think in this particular season of my life where I needed to shift, like I needed to be uprooted. Wow. Like there are so many things I have gathered in this part of the journey that I'm like, yo, I don't know exactly where the next like stop is on this thing. But what I know is, baby, I think I'm equipped.
You picking up stuff.
I think I'm equipped. And I hope, Jesus, I hope I'm equipped. But what I know is I got more equipment than I had.
Right.
At the start.
Yeah.
And like internal equipment that I had at the start. And so like you cannot bypass. There is no shortcut, right? Like what did Jennifer Lewis used to say? There's no shortcut to success. You got to take there's no elevator to success. You have to take the stairs. Life is the stairs, right? The problem is we want the elevator
always
because we know the elevator's going up and we know we can press the button
and it'll go
to that floor.
And
the journey will be short.
Sometimes life will present us with opportunities just to show that principle.
Yeah.
That life does not come with they will actually give somebody an elevator to success. And we see how they crumble.
Yeah.
Because they took the show and we'll see it. And like in their life becomes a story about this eternal principle of going through the process.
That's right.
And I don't want to be one of them people that have to be a story to somebody else about this is what happens when you don't go through the process.
You bypass,
yeah. It's like bypass. Okay, y'all know. Okay, y'all don't know this. They've been doing the analogies. I've been letting them have it. I'm the analogy queen in this life. I think I want to say it's in my Instagram description. Wow. Queen of analogies or something like that. Author of analogies because I love alliteration.
Yeah, me
they
too.
Share that too.
I am just
But it's literally like building a house, right? Like if you see yourself, is this the analogy? No, it's similar to the one I used at the photosynthesis, but it's like what happens if you bypass fundamental steps, right? Digging a big ass hole is not fun.
No.
But it is necessary to get, if you're going to build a slab foundation, it's necessary to get that thing in the ground. Right? It's not
get down
fun.
There. You got to have space for all your plumbing and
that part.
Yeah.
If you don't do that right, my guy, your shit is going to be like the house built on the sand and it's going to crumble. You're going to see cracks. You're going to have an unstable structure.
It's going to get knocked the fuck down because we live in the worst place ever for stupid storms.
That part.
To tell you the truth, that's the reason why there was a lot of trees that got uprooted because they were planted in spaces where they didn't have space. The space to go down.
That's correct.
Couldn't get deep.
And because of that,
roots were shallow.
When the storm comes, the roots were shallow and it got toppled over. Now, our house has 4 trees.
It does.
Yeah. One on the right side,
They're
one on the left behind the fence.
I forget that tree.
And then 2 big ass magnolia trees in the front yard.
And they're my favorite.
That's like mine too. They're really cute.
And they've been there for 30, 40 years now.
Yeah.
And,
only?
Yeah, I know. They planted them after they moved in.
Yeah.
They moved in 83.
Wow.
So I'm sorry.
Wait,
Chris and
that's
I live
not
in
the house your dad grew up in?
No.
So we live in my grandparents' old house. My grandparents passed away, and we bought their old home for reference. And so this is why this discussion is being had.
Right.
So yes,
Gotcha.
they built this house and they planted these trees.
Right.
And they're gorgeous.
And they're gorgeous, and they're all around. You got like two oak trees.
We have two oaks and two magnolias.
Two magnolias. And the storms come, Hurricane Bear. Only thing that fell off were the branches. But because them joints had space to grow and develop roots, like I don't even have a decent lawn because the magnolia tree's roots are just up. And I hate it.
Ain't no grass.
I hate it.
No,
that's just like I want to repack it with dirt and put some sod on top.
The point is,
they're there.
Magnolias are gorgeous.
They're healthy. They're
because
strong.
They had the space to get down deep and spread out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And our foundation into our house is not even affected.
Nope.
Yeah. Because there's space. Imagine having land.
I've recently finished a book. The title is All Black Girls Are Activists, and then there's a very long subtitle that I can't remember.
It's also upstairs. Should I go grab
it? You don't have to go grab it. However, it's by Ebony Janice. Both names. Don't take one off.
Period.
And the things that she talks about, one of them is definitely like the idea that, particularly as Black people and Black women, but Black people, this is a thing for Black people in general, probably BIPOC as well, but like that we are taught to take up as little space as possible. To be, and like I said, this is specifically for women. Men don't get quite the same indoctrination, but for women, like to take up as little space as possible, to not be obtrusive, to not be loud, to not like feel your feelings. I was trained in the art of emotional suppression. I am quite good at it. It is incredibly detrimental. To say my roots are bound is an understatement. Also, #therapy. On my way. On my way.
A journey.
Hopefully by the next season of this, I can say a little bit more about that because I'll have actually been through some. However, the way that we as a people, Black, femme, so on and so forth, are taught to become small, to not rock the boat, to assimilate to degrees that people probably don't even recognize in themselves. Not just like code switching. I mean, code switching is a big one, right? Changing our names or using our initials on, things so that people our appearances, the whole thing about hair and all of that.
How do we stay safe? How do I move my hands in such a way that doesn't make me a threat? How do I never put my hands in my pocket in the store so people don't think I'm stealing, right?
How do I modulate my voice when somebody has aggressed me?
Yeah.
And they're literally being aggressive, but I can't be the angry Black woman, right?
Or how do I moderate my voice to sound more feminine because Black and feminine are not inherent in people's minds?
The list is so long. The way that you walk, can you turn flips until you're 12 because you have too big of a butt? Like the list of things that we are told we don't get to do because we are Black, because we are femme, because we are queer, whatever it is. The list of things you don't get to do, sometimes just to be safe and sometimes just to not make other people, air quotes, uncomfortable. Is ridiculous. And you get bound up and you carry a lot of that a lot of times. And we spend a lot of time unpacking that, trying to uproot those ideas that made us think we had to be less of ourselves than we actually are. And once you start to do that work, it's hard, it's dark, it's uncomfortable, and it's scary. But when you start coming out on the other side, it's like, oh my God, I've broken through the dirt. I can see the sun. Look, there's air out here, but it takes work and it's scary. But as long as you're clinging to like, I know I'm safe over here. I know this, I know that, you know nothing, because you can literally get a pot of water and ask somebody not to shoot you and they'll do it anyway. Yep. You might as well be yourself.
Well, and that's it. Like so I remember, so for context, I don't know, around the age of 30, I went through a divorce. And that year, my biggest takeaway, y'all, 30 was one of my favorite ages. It was a tough year, but it was one of my favorite ages because what I learned that year is I don't know shit. Like, I don't know anything. Even the things I thought I knew about myself to be true, had like proven to not be true. And I was just like, well, girl, if you don't know things, baby, what do you know? And so I was like, well, what happens when you don't know anything? Then I have the freedom to learn everything, right?
Yeah,
and so then like that started me down like my whole like spiritual journey, right? Of being like, and that I will say, of all the things to let go, the way I conceived of my spiritual identity was the hardest because, well, when a hell exists to put you in, eternal damnation is fucking terrifying, right?
That
really
is
is.
a motivator.
Scares you straight.
And so like there are journal entries. I'm also a lifelong journaler. And so I have journal entries like way back to like 3rd grade, I think. Because somebody threw away my Lisa Frank and I don't know who, but we need to fight. Anywho. But like I remember reading journal entries from that era, and it was like I'm literally writing to God, like, God, here's what I'm letting go. Please don't let me go to hell. God, I would like to try this. Please don't let me go to hell. Like, if I'm wrong, just steer me back. And like, at this point, I will trust you to do so. But what I do know is I can no longer function under this set of rules because this set of rules is against who I am in so many ways. And like, if you made me, and I actually don't got no beef with me in this, I got like, at the time, I had so many other beefs with myself. But not that in these particular ways, like help guide. And what happened was when I let go, it wasn't God putting the rules on me. It was me holding on to the rules that everybody else had put on me. And so when I let that go, it was, and y'all, when I say terrifying, like it was really scary because we're talking about the fate of my soul. Right. Like, who gives a shit about this other stuff that's material when the fate of your soul is at risk? But what I learned is it turns out it was not that at risk as I thought it was. Right. And like, God can hold my questioning. God can hold my doubt. God can hold my uncertainty. And honestly, thrives there.
Man, that nigga does the best work in that realm.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call God, but he is.
It's
that
okay.
nigga
That
to me.
registered. That resonated in my soul.
Right.
Well, like we still give reverence, but you know, like we just talk.
It's a flexible word.
Yeah, it's a flexible word.
It's a flexible word.
So,
but everybody can't use it.
Girl, I was about to say it.
Let me be clear.
I was about to say it.
so the idea that you mentioned about God, you writing to God and saying, "Hey, I gotta let these go. Please don't let me go." And so that I went down a similar line of thinking that it's like the early years of our marriage. I told Christian, I was like, "Look, I can't be in a relationship with a God that in the back of my head wants to kill me."
You know?
It's like I can't reconcile the two. I understand this is my fucking theology. I've been preaching since I was 16. I'm church boy. All the way. I get it. But I started to think about this shit. That sounds very Stockholm syndrome-ish.
Yes.
It sounds very traumatic. And I get it. I don't care how you want to legalese a lawyer with talking about God don't send you hell. You send yourself to hell. Why is it there?
Why is who
maintains it? Who keeps it? Who powers hell? Who powers hell? Who pays his light bills? Who keeps this shit on?
Who keeps it on?
And if you want to say it's Satan, okay, then Satan is an equal power to God. Like, what are we doing?
This is the conversation.
So again, the narrative started unraveling. Then, start thinking through, and again, it's like, and I haven't gone to the lens of it, like to be an atheist.
Yeah,
but it's definitely put me in a more
necessary.
No, it's not.
I don't think I can do it.
God exists. He's done enough.
Period.
The stories about him can be questioned, but him, them in particular, for me,
that's not
on the table.
Yeah, big higher power energy.
Right. Not on the table. If you're atheist in here, we love you.
You're welcome,
and we respect you. You're welcome. I don't have no beef with you.
None.
Everybody has to do their own journey. Everybody has to do their own study. And if you have reason to the point that God does not have, that the idea of God has no relevance or whatever,
Resonance.
God's cool with you too.
I would also invite you to be open in your certainty as well. I think we all can be open, and not to change your mind, but to answer questions. Baby, why is it dark?
It just shifted for real. It was like turned off the light.
All right.
It's about to rain.
Who turned
I
off
don't
the
need
sun?
no more rain, Jesus.
No, that's real. I mean,
Yeah.
don't say that though, because normally we in a drought in the summer. So
Yeah.
Girl, we
listen,
ain't in no drought.
I know.
Right.
We
but-
got so much water.
That's what
Who
I'm
else
saying.
needs some water? We got extra.
I will trade you water for a stable electric grid.
Anyway,
I had a struggle.
atheism.
Y'all, also, sorry, atheism, also neurodivergence. There's a lot of it in this room. And so, you know, just we're going to do our best to stay on track, but just know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we were talking about like, we want to invite everybody in the space to release the certainties that they have around God, whether he exists, doesn't exist, what kind of faith practice is the right one, air quotes again.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what we want the space to be, is a place where we can have these conversations and it doesn't turn into people yelling, you know.
Because why?
Right, my way is the best way. Like
Right.
I'm not coming at you with that energy.
Yeah.
I'm just going to speak from, like you said, we all of us are speaking from our experiences and our stories,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully you'll be some parts of that will resonate with you.
Yep.
In ways that help you. And again, being in America, we get this tendency to want to think that one way has to be the best way,
Right.
and
And it has to be the best way for everybody.
unilaterally.
That don't even make sense.
It doesn't make,
you
Like,
know,
just like, I want y'all to listen to that back. That don't make sense.
it don't
It
make no
can't.
sentence.
You could have a sibling, and what's best for your sibling ain't what's best for you, and y'all grow up in the same house.
you know what I'm saying?
There are twins who can't tolerate doing the same thing all the
Hello?
time. Like,
And they get put in the same environment and all of that,
In the same clothes.
in the same clothes.
got the same parents.
Yep.
And
They came into the world at the same time, relatively.
Right.
Mhm.
Compared to the rest of us. Absolutely.
Right. So same
They're
generation.
womb mates. For real.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're not the same.
Mhm.
So, you know,
So why we gotta all be
we
the
don't need
same,
to
like
one
the
size
same?
fits all anything here.
Yes.
Right.
But Chris, you was talking about the atheists before
Yeah.
I gave them an invitation to be open.
Right. Just like I said, to be open. And again, that's the point of it, is that for me, when I was in my journey, that's what we're talking about, questioning my relationship to God and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable for us as a unit to thrive, me and God in particular. Hell was just like, I don't need to be scared of that.
Yeah.
I know I've done some things or whatever. And when I say I've been human, I'm
Mhm.
gonna say that.
He's
I've committed no
been
crimes.
human.
But
Of the law.
of the law,
It was nothing.
But of
nothing.
the soul.
of the
my
soul,
God.
I've sinned against myself. But no, it's
Well,
I swear these two are
Wow.
twins sometimes.
she literally, I say this all the time, she married her best friend in more than ways than one.
I
right,
did.
Mhm.
They're like eerily similar.
yeah,
Sometimes, and I'm like, good God, I was like, I need a male Whitney. That's what Enter Chris.
that is hilarious.
Found him.
Found them. Yeah, so holding on to things, feel free to
Feel free
explore
to
that,
not.
especially when the
Let it
story
go.
that you've been told is not working for you in your life.
That part.
You need to be able to tweak that. Your story is still being told. Your pen is still to the paper.
Period.
You can write a new chapter
Hmm.
on everything,
And anything.
including God. All of us have ideas about God that we need to shape and shift. And part of being in this experience and part of being here is to explore and experience God in new ways,
Mhm.
and not to have arrived to the point to where I found the true way
Hmm.
and there's no deviation from this script.
Yeah.
Nobody, not even in Hollywood, are they committed to a script like that they feel like they can't change it.
Yeah.
They'll write a nigga off in a minute.
Absolutely. Rewrites are happening. All
Rewrites
the
are
time.
happening.
All the time.
People go on
In-
strikes.
in real time.
So nothing is for certain.
Yeah.
And that's good. That should be good news. It should be good news. Nothing is for certain, because
It don't always feel that
It
way.
don't
I was about
always
to
feel
say, I
that
think
way.
it actually induces a lot of anxiety for people
right,
because if nothing's for certain, what can I stand on?
Yeah.
And I think this
Mm-hmm.
is
stand on business.
period. Stand on the word.
Finish your thought.
But
Sorry, go ahead.
I think there are things. This is why it's so important to
Mhm.
become grounded in self, and not just self,
Mhm.
but like whatever your higher power. You can call it God. You can call it Creator. You can call it Universe. You could call it Big
Buddha,
Hula Hoop.
Krishna.
I don't care.
Well, not Buddha, but yeah.
But like staying grounded in knowing that like you are here on purpose, all will be well, all things are working towards your good, and that you've got you. Right. And I think that's important. This is why it's important to do our inner work so that you can be in a place where you're like, oh, no one else has to save me. I don't need a sky daddy and a cape. Because that is not the form of God in which I believe, right? Like that's not how God necessarily functions for me. Yeah. It's not a sky daddy and a cape or like, on the white horse.
Yeah.
God is not some outside entity.
Right.
That is not connected to me.
Right. And so like, if God is in you, which if you traditional Christian, I'm just going to say that's the Holy Sprite. Okay. It's on the inside.
At work
Holy
within
Spirit
you.
Yes.
Of God.
And so like it is in you. And so trust, it's a matter of like, this is faith.
Mm-hmm.
This is faith. This is trust. And it is, even though, what is it? Faith is the subject of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And so like, yeah, you can't see it, but it's a deep, settled inner knowing that like all this shit could crumble and I'm going to be good.
There's this imagery that I liked in the Marvel movie with the X-Men. And there's this scene where Magneto is trying to get from one part to the other.
Magneto is one of the villains.
And Magneto is one of the villains.
I need this explanation.
I saw her face, so
Magneto's power, mutant superpower, is to like he can attract metal.
Oh, because he's magnetic.
Because he's magnetic. Magneto.
That's what I
thought. Names are very on the
nose.
Important.
And this is who plays Magneto in
Doesn't matter. Keep going.
Nope.
I'm sorry. I'm going on. Anyway.
Magneto.
Yes, Magneto. And so he's finally broken out of prison because someone handed him a key or whatever so he can manipulate
a small
metal.
Piece of metal. I think it was a
piece of metal or something like that. He breaks out of prison.
Wait, they handed it to him? He couldn't just draw it to himself?
No.
Like skibbity pop.
So they basically enclosed him in plastic. So that he couldn't. So there was nothing that he could use.
What the fuck?
It makes sense if you watch the movie. Okay?
I have to show you the clip.
What I'm saying is, niggas can believe in superhero shit and suspend disbelief, but you can't suspend it in your own life.
Sorry. We'll get back. Put a pin on that. Park
Go ahead. So Magneto and plastic. Somebody digs through the plastic, somehow hands him this tiny metal key that he couldn't attract because he was in plastic. Hurt.
Yeah, because it was far away.
Anyway,
like it was out of his magnetic range.
He gets out of prison.
Okay, out of range.
Magnets fail at magnetic fields on that because there's still science on that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me.
Okay. He gets out of prison.
He gets out of prison, and so of course there's this deep space between him and where he needs to be, and so he's walking, and as he's walking, he's the platform is building as he's walking
because he's drawing he's drawing metal from the wall.
That's it. That's attraction.
Yeah. And so
he's drawing the metal from the wall, but it only appears. Instead of him trying to build the entire expanse while he's at one end,
he's walking.
As he takes a step,
it appears
the next
step becomes.
It
shows
appears
up
as he arrives.
It appears as he arrives.
And so
that's my life.
I'm seeing niggas shouting niggas on a Marvel movie. Anyway, Magneto the villain.
Yes, but it's such the villain? That's a subject for your story.
Yeah.
That's another subject.
Him and Professor X represent two opposing ideologies. So
wait, repeat that because I didn't hear that over my own thoughts.
He and Professor X, the other mutant, represent two opposing ideologies. Stan Lee, the one who created Comet,
not to be confused with Stan Smith, who I'm always confusing him with.
Right. So Professor X is kind of representing. This is going into comic lore that I'm not necessarily
too far, babe.
He represents Martin Luther King, Professor X, and Magneto is more of the Malcolm X. Mm-hmm.
That's the idea behind it. So that's why when I said
by black characters,
of course they're not.
No,
they're not black in the comic.
They're not black in the comic.
So
they're
that's
black
why
in inspiration. Y'all stay stealing.
That's why I said we don't need to go that far because that's complicated.
I know that
the reason Stan Lee did what he did, that's a whole separate conversation. However, the point is, as it comes, right? What did you say? What was the phrase we said? Y'all both said it and I forgot it.
Attraction as you arrive.
As you arrive.
There we go.
It comes as you. It will come when you arrive.
Yes.
Lord Jesus, that'll preach.
It comes when it's time.
When it's time
When
for
it's
it.
time.
And I think that is alignment, right? Is that you get what you need when you need to get it.
Right. And you have that power.
You do.
Everyone has that power to walk. You don't. The Bible talks about this, but without faith, it is impossible to please God.
That's right.
And what that means by that is that you don't get to exist on this plane without exerting a level of faith on any level.
Okay.
Like I said, it didn't take any faith or whatever. I believed that this chair would hold me. I didn't know that it would.
Yeah.
But I sat in it believing that it would. There's trust that happens with, even with the babies, exerting trust. They trust that when they cry, they will get food. And so they do.
Yep.
And that cry becomes the substance of things that are hoped for. That cry becomes the evidence of things that are not seen.
You better cry out.
I don't see food, but I believe that if I do this, food will
appear.
come.
Yep.
And so there are things that we do that are that we do by faith, and that's the coupling of faith and works. Faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
If you believe it, then go do something about it.
That part.
If you believe that, like you said, if you believe that there's greater for you at the end of a job, then okay, go.
Yeah.
And again, the path will become clear as you go. But
yeah,
that's why I just want to say, by faith, it's impossible to please God.
It
right?
is.
But
you know what and I know we got to wrap, but I think the challenge here is that oftentimes we, in making God in our image, we often I think about how we were taught about God, Christian, like Father God, right?
Yep. Right.
And so we tend to make God into a parent. That is really complicated when your parents are people that are easily displeased, or your parents are people.
Yes.
Right. And they come with their own things like we talked about earlier. Right. And so you're constantly feeling like, oh shit, can't do this, can't do that. Gotta clip all these things to please this person. The difference between your parent and God is that God is a God.
God is God.
Right. And God can meet your needs. And so I think in order for a lot of us, in order to learn to have faith in God and learn to trust that if we cry, then the need will be met. We're going to have to unpack the feeling and fear that it won't, and where that stems from. And for a lot of us, that might be parental relationships. And maybe not like, oh, my parent was neglectful, they didn't feed me. But oftentimes we didn't get like emotional things that we needed. Some people absolutely physical, right? Sometimes you didn't have physical safety or physical provision, but or being provided for.
Yeah.
But that emotional safety it scars you. And then if you relate God to a parent, Father God, right? Now it's like, oh, what if he doesn't? And what if he punishes me?
Right.
Because that is what your parents do, but your God and your parents are not the same.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Again, without faith, it's impossible to please God, but it's impossible to live here without faith.
That's it.
So that means to God, in God's eyes, God is perpetually pleased.
Yeah,
that's
with
it.
You.
Yeah,
because you're walking. You could walk in a little bit more faith and all that. He's given every man a measure of faith. That's Romans.
Yep.
So if he's giving you a measure of faith, and without faith is impossible to please him, then he is perpetually pleased with you.
Yeah. So
we connect those dots, and rest in that, and even in the uncertain moments, again, all power is his power.
And what space can you take with a God that is perpetually pleased? How can you show up if you know you're not going to disappoint God? How does that change how you show up? What space does that create in your life and in your body? Right? If I can't be wrong, and not like wrong, obviously don't murder, right? Like,
we're not talking about the basic moralisms, like don't go murdering people.
Yeah.
But like if I cannot make a wrong decision because I'm acting out of faith regardless, well, how does that alleviate that pressure? How does that alleviate that anxiety that you're going to get it wrong and somehow be punished for it? Right? And also, I'm just going to speak from my experience. God ain't never punished me. God has given me opportunity to grow. And I'm not saying it like, oh, it's a euphemism. Like, oh, you didn't do that bad. It's an opportunity it's a growth opportunity. No. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, have I been through some hard shit? Yo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yo, this shit has been wild. I have experienced sometimes the consequences of my own decisions. I have often also experienced the consequences of other people's decisions, especially like as a kid, right?
Right.
But everything is usable, and at no point was God punishing me. And so if you take off that lens, release the lens of like punishment, because hell is also a punishment, right? Like punishment is just a mechanism for control. Can we talk about it? Let's not. We don't got time. But yeah, we go home with that. Yeah, punishment is just a mechanism for control. So if you take out this mechanism, how do you move? How do you move when you know that God is not looking for you to fuck up and waiting for an opportunity to then bash you in or put you in timeout or take something you love or someone you love?
Right.
How does that change your life?
And some people don't want to deal with that at all. Deal with that question at all.
Y'all gonna have to deal with it if you're gonna hang around.
Well, why do I follow God if I ain't gonna go to hell? What?
That's a good question.
That is a great question to ask.
It's a good question to ask, and we're gonna keep asking those kinds of questions. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be diving more into some of the nitty gritty on some of the aspects of certainty and what it produces, and what we can do instead.
What we can do instead. Because we're all about the, like, how do I move forward in a different way, in a way that actually serves me well? So hopefully you took something away from today. We want to thank you so much for joining us in this time, in this first episode of the podcast. We are hoping to...
It's up from here, y'all.
It can only go up from here. It's going to improve. Thank you for being patient with us and hanging out with us. And we will see you next week. Please be sure to like and subscribe and follow us on social media.
Also on wherever you listen to podcasts, so you can get updated when we release a new one.
Apple,
and feel free
Spotify,
to like and share and leave comments and tell us what you like and what you want to see.
Yeah. Sensational.
No. No. Although if you're listening, sir, you're really big.
Yeah.
And suave.
It is big.
And almondy.
He makes me look like, man, that's a fine specimen there.
I just want to say,
I'm married and all that. I love women.
I mean, he's a nice.
You are
also, same. I also love women, and that man is.
I don't even know what we're talking about.
The man says, Mr. Sensational.
Sensational.
He's big, fine man. Won't you back that? No. I will show him to you when we end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, that's that who sings that song.
No, that's too bad.
Done. All right, y'all. Take care. Much love. Love all around. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Uproot Project podcast. We hope you found fresh perspective and continue to make space for real growth. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcast. You can follow us on social media at the Uproot Project Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, or visit us at theuprootpodcast.com for more content. Until next time, keep living fully, learning openly, and loving deeply. We'll see you soon.